What if I told you that being good with money has nothing to do with how intelligent you are, and everything to do with how you behave? That might sound strange at first. We often assume that people who are good with money must be financially educated, mathematically gifted, or highly disciplined. But the truth is much simpler and much more human. In The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, we learn that financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill. It's about how you think, how you react, and how you handle uncertainty. And today, we're going to break down the most important lessons from this book, lessons that can completely change the way you see money, wealth, and your future. Let's start with one of the most important ideas in the entire book. No one is crazy. When it comes to money, people often look at others' decisions and think, that makes no sense. Why would someone take on massive debt? Why would someone avoid investing completely? Why would someone gamble everything on one risky opportunity? But Morgan Housel explains that no one is crazy. People make decisions based on their own unique experiences, especially their experiences growing up. If you grew up during a recession, you might fear investing. If you grew up in a booming economy, you might take bigger risks. If your family struggled financially, you might become extremely cautious. If your family was wealthy, you might feel comfortable spending more. Every financial decision you make is shaped by your personal history, much of which other people can't see. And that leads to an important realization. Before judging others, or even yourself, you need to understand the story behind the decision. Because money decisions are rarely about logic. They're about emotion, memory, and perspective. Now let's talk about something that people don't like to admit: luck and risk. We love stories of success. We admire billionaires, entrepreneurs, and investors. We study what they did, hoping to copy their path. But there's a hidden factor behind every success story: luck. Take Bill Gates, for example. He's undeniably brilliant, but he also had access to a computer at a time when almost no one else did. That opportunity gave him a massive head start. Does that mean his success was only luck? Of course not. But was luck part of it? Absolutely. The same goes for failure. Sometimes people make smart decisions and still fail because of bad luck. Timing, economic conditions, and random events all play a role. The problem is that we tend to ignore luck when we look at success and ignore risk when we look at failure. And that creates dangerous thinking. We start believing that success is always earned and failure is always deserved. But reality is more complicated. The lesson here is humility. When things go well, don't assume it's all because of your brilliance. And when things go poorly, don't assume it's entirely your fault. Respect both luck and risk, and never become overconfident. Now, let's move on to one of the most powerful and often overlooked ideas in the book. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. In other words, knowing when you have enough. There are countless stories of people who had more money than they could ever need and still lost everything because they wanted more.
They kept taking risks. They kept pushing. They couldn't stop. And eventually, it cost them everything. This happens because comparison is a powerful force. We don't measure our success in absolute terms. We measure it relative to others. There will always be someone richer, someone more successful, someone doing better. If you keep chasing that comparison, you will never feel satisfied. So the key is simple, but not easy. Define what enough means for you. Once you know that, you can stop taking unnecessary risks. You can protect what you have, and you can actually enjoy your life. Because at some point, the game stops being about gaining more and starts being about not losing what you already have. Now, let's talk about one of the most important forces in all of finance: compounding. Compounding is often called the eighth wonder of the world, but most people underestimate how powerful it really is. It's not about making huge returns in a short period of time. It's about making reasonable returns consistently over a long period of time. Time is the key ingredient. Think about Warren Buffett. Yes, he's a great investor, but one of the biggest reasons for his success is that he started investing at a very young age and continued for decades. If you look at his wealth, most of it came later in his life, not because he suddenly became smarter, but because his investments had more time to grow. Compounding works slowly at first, almost invisibly, but over time it becomes unstoppable. And that's why patience is so important. People often try to get rich quickly. They chase trends, they take big risks, they look for shortcuts. But the real secret to wealth is much simpler. Stay invested, stay consistent, and give your money time to grow. This brings us to another powerful idea. Save like a pessimist, invest like an optimist. At first, this might sound contradictory, but it's actually a very balanced approach. Being optimistic means believing that the future will be better, that markets will grow, opportunities will arise, and your investments will pay off over time. But being pessimistic means recognizing that things can go wrong in the short term. You might lose your job, the market might crash, unexpected expenses might appear. So you prepare for those situations by saving. You build a cushion, you create a safety net. That way, when something goes wrong, and eventually something will, you're not forced to make desperate decisions. This combination of optimism and caution is incredibly powerful. It allows you to stay calm during uncertainty and stay invested for the long term. Now, let's talk about a concept that many people misunderstand. The difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is about what you see. It's visible. It's the expensive car, the luxury house, the designer clothes. But wealth is different.
Wealth is what you don't see. It's the money that's saved, invested, and not spent. And here's the important part. Many people who look rich are not actually wealthy. They spend everything they earn, and sometimes more. On the other hand, many wealthy people don't look rich at all. They live below their means. They save. They invest. Because they understand that true wealth is not about showing off. It's about security, flexibility, and freedom. So instead of focusing on appearances, focus on building assets. Because at the end of the day, wealth is what gives you options. And that leads us to perhaps the most important idea in the entire book. The highest form of wealth is the ability to control your time. Money is not just about buying things. It's about buying freedom. The freedom to choose what you do, when you do it, and who you do it with. The freedom to say no to things you don't want to do. The freedom to live life on your own terms. And that's something that no luxury item can replace. People often sacrifice their time in exchange for money, thinking they'll enjoy it later. But the truth is, time is the most valuable asset you have. And once it's gone, you can't get it back. So when you think about money, don't just think about how much you have. Think about what it allows you to do. Another important lesson is this. You don't need to be right all the time to be successful. In fact, in investing and in life, a small number of decisions often make a huge difference.
most of your results will come from a few key moments, a few great investments, a few smart choices. This is known as the tails concept. The idea is that a small number of extreme outcomes drive the majority of results. So instead of trying to be perfect, focus on staying in the game. Avoid catastrophic mistakes. Be consistent. Give yourself enough chances to succeed. Because you don't need to hit every shot. You just need a few big wins. Now, here's something that might surprise you. It's better to be reasonable than to be perfectly rational. In theory, we should always make the most logical financial decisions. But in reality, humans don't work that way. We have emotions, we have fears, we have habits. And if a strategy is too difficult, too stressful, or too complex, we won't stick to it. So instead of trying to be perfect, choose a strategy that you can actually follow, even if it's not mathematically optimal. Because a good plan that you stick with is far better than a perfect plan that you abandon.
Finally, let's talk about simplicity. In a world full of financial advice, strategies, and complex systems, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. But the truth is, successful investing doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simpler your approach, the more likely you are to stick with it. You don't need to constantly check the market. You don't need to predict trends. You don't need to chase the latest opportunities. What you need is consistency, patience, and discipline. Simple beats complex, because simple works. So, what's the big takeaway from The Psychology of Money? It's this. Financial success is not about intelligence. It's about behavior. It's about how you handle uncertainty, how you manage your emotions, and how you think about the future. If you can stay patient, stay humble, avoid unnecessary risks, and focus on the long term, you'll be ahead of most people. Because in the end, money is not just about numbers. It's about psychology. And once you understand that, everything changes. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more content like this. And remember, getting rich is hard, but staying rich is all about behavior.